Hello and welcome. This is Rooflemonger and my friends. Today we're going to talk some Dead or Alive. You probably saw the big to-do about the fact that Dead or Alive is coming back. The franchise has been on ice for, the last few years, and we got an all-new entry in the franchise in Dead or Alive 7, and as well, Dead or Alive 6 is coming back in Dead or Alive 6 Last Round. Now, the premise for this video is effectively what I want to see in Dead or Alive 7. Lord knows it's probably a whiles off, but to briefly talk on Last Round, since it made its debut, there's been a few facts that are leaving people a little iffy. The two guest characters of Mai Shiranui and Kula Diamond, it looks like they will not be playable, which sucks. Maybe there's some licensing issues. It's unfortunate, but I can forgive it, I guess. It has also since been confirmed there will not be crossplay, meaning the Xbox, PlayStation, and PC versions cannot play with one another. And that really sucks. Now, for me, that's not a deal breaker. It could be for some people. I find it truly unfortunate though. The big one for me is they have not said that this game will have rollback netcode. Dead or Alive 6 when it launched did not have rollback netcode. Granted, as much as it sucked, I'd forgive it at the time, because at the time it still wasn't the standard. It only really became the standard come Guilty Gear Strive in 2021. However, I hope they realize it is 2026 now, and rollback netcode very much is the standard. Because if you want this to be kind of like a lead-in for Dead or Alive 7, there is literally a blueprint for you to follow in that Virtua Fighter 5 Revo is a thing. It brought back the classical Virtua Fighter game with rollback netcode for the modern day, so people could see what Virtua Fighter is all about before the new Virtua Fighter comes out. And that's what you need Dead or Alive 6 Last Round to be. And if you launch that game with the same old busted delay-based netcode, you are potentially doing more harm to your brand than you're doing any help to it. Like, rest assured, you're probably not getting my pre-order until I see a rollback netcode announcement, so get on getting on that is what I want to say. Otherwise, I am pretty excited for Dead or Alive 6 Last Round. Hopefully they have some interesting balance changes as well. But yeah, Dead or Alive 7, it's a thing that's gonna happen, crazy as it sounds. We know next to nothing about the game other than Ryu Hayabusa and Kasumi will be characters, I'm assuming they're in the trailer. Past that, who knows? So basically, here is a wish list of what I want to see out of a Dead or Alive 7. I've always been a fan of the franchise. Dead or Alive 4 specifically is like probably top 5 most played fighting game of my whole life. And I got some thoughts about what I want to see out of a Dead or Alive 7. Now, to preface this is my opinion only. I do not speak for anyone but myself. But I've had a while to think about this because it's been a while since the last Dead or Alive game. So I just wanted to kind of get it all there in grand video format. So one of the first things I want out of a new Dead or Alive and Dead or Alive 7 is keep Dead or Alive, right? Don't ruin what brought you to the dance to begin with. So keep the core gameplay systems, keep the sexy ladies, keep the fast frenetic action, keep the crazy stages, and we're going to talk more about that later. A lot of what makes DOA DOA, don't mess with the formula and try to be a game you're not. People are excited for a new Dead or Alive because it's a new Dead or Alive. They want a new DOA. They don't want like a Tekken knockoff or whatever. So keep the core essence of what makes DOA DOA. I think most people can agree with that. Like, if you're unaware, I guess you could say Dead or Alive's a little bit about a triangle, right? You have attacks, you have holds, which are the counters, and you have throws. And they all just interact with each other in interesting ways. Attacks, well, they're attacks, right? You attack the enemy, you beat them up, and you win the game. That's how it's done, right? Fighting game 101. The holds, every character in Dead or Alive is a counter specialist. In a lot of fighting games, like there's 1 or 2 characters that are the counter characters. In Dead or Alive, that's everybody. Everyone can handle everything coming their way without fail. So there's basically no way for a predictable opponent to get any real ground on you. And that's one of the excellent things about Dead or Alive, because when I know what's coming, you're going for the ride. But that's the problem. Since everyone can just counter everything, that's a very attractive option. So you're going to want to go for it a lot. And for throws, if you throw someone who's in the middle of a counter attack, you're going to do a lot more damage. And that's sort of the triangle. That means everyone's a counter expert and everyone is also a grappler. Take characters that are normally somewhat tricky characters, right? If you give them the opportunity, they can put out big grappler damage as well. And the characters that are actually good at the whole grappling thing, well, don't give them the chance because it ain't gonna work out in your favor. Let's put it that way, right? But like the core gameplay loop, I'm sure there'll be like a new mechanic or like some sort of giga, some new thing to sell you on the game. Sure, do what you gotta do, but keep the core DOA experience DOA. So that said, one of the things I'm going to argue for now, might be a little controversial, is keep the super meter. So the super meter was added in Dead or Alive 6, and it's absolutely one of the more controversial things added about the game. So it added two things with the meter. The one definitely has to go though, but the first is good. So one of the things about the meter system is when you fill up your meter, you can do a super move, right? And that's kind of fighting game 101. And I think the supers always worked in Dead or Alive 6 because they weren't particularly crazy. They're a pretty quick strike in a way that made sense for the character. And quick is a big thing of it, right? So they don't take long to happen. It gives, good power fantasy. Like admittedly, some are really vanilla. Like, hey, here's just a big old strike. Some are pretty funny and give a lot of just telling you what the character is all about. Like Tina just bopping you with her rear. But basically, yeah, it's just good, quick and dirty sort of thing. It doesn't distract from the game in any real way, in my opinion. I've argued against adding super meters to, say, the new Virtua Fighter, because I don't think it fits Virtua Fighter. I do think these quick cinematic supers that are not 10-second long cutscenes, I think this does fit Dead or Alive. So the supers are all good by me. Like, I got no problem with them, to be honest with you, right? But of course, that was never the issue. It was break hold, which was the issue. Break hold, if you're unaware, so break holds are the everything counter. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter at all, right? Before, you had to have a read on your opponent. Like, is it a high, mid, or a low, right? Now, you just spin that bar, and it doesn't matter what it is, it gets everything, right? Which kind of ruined a lot of the game's interactions. And that needs to go. That cannot return. Now, if you want to keep segmented meters, there's options available, I suppose. Like, say, you could pull like a Soul Calibur and add what are effective EX moves, right? Every character could have a certain move that's tailored to the character. If you spend a little meter on it, that move gets a little bit better. And it could be character by character. A signature move gets to be that much scarier. Like, say, a move that's normally just a regular mid becomes a launcher, or say like a power grab from someone like Bass becomes an offensive hold, which is like a catch grab. A throw that beats attacks like Virtua Fighter, because DOA has a lot of Virtua Fighter rules. Like, regardless of whatever it is, you can give effective EX moves in the game. So like, spend something on a smaller attack and spend it all on a super attack. Makes sense. But break hold has to go. But other than that, I'm not opposed to super meter staying in Dead or Alive 7. So now next up, let's talk stages. Stages is what Dead or Alive does better than any other fighting game, full stop. That said, the previous game in the series, Dead or Alive 6, I feel was the weakest of all the DOA games when it came to stages. Simply put, they played it too safe. There's some fun things like Unforgettable, the museum stage, I legitimately think is one of the coolest stages of all time. You can watch that video if you want to learn more, but otherwise the stages play it way, way, way too safe. It's not to say there's no fun moments in some of the stages in Dead or Alive 6, so, far from it. Like, there's fast frenetic action. Hit a danger zone, a cool visual effect can go off, but compared to some of the other stages of the franchise's past, it doesn't have the character, it doesn't have the soul, it doesn't have the mechanics, most importantly, because mechanics were such a huge deal. Like something as basic as water, and you're like, what's water, right? Like, take a look here, just down kick for Bass. Doesn't really mean much, right? In water, this becomes a completely different move with a completely different consequence because it causes slip stun, makes you trip on the water. And in older Dead or Alive games, water's a massive, prominent feature. You have to pay attention. A lot of older games also have an ice/snow stage. And then the whole stage is slip stun okay, because, hey, ice is slippery. You gotta watch out. And the environmental stuff makes some of the best memories in Dead or Alive. Like the old Vegas stage. Is it great for esports? Probably not, given that the cars can just hit you and sometimes you don't get to see the cars coming. But was it fun? You betcha. And when I talk to anyone who used to play the Dead or Alive games back in the day, a lot of the people's most favorite memories are going to be the environmental stage stuff. Like, hey, on rare certain stages and only certain characters, you can do things like stair throws. There hasn't been any stairs in Dead or Alive in a hot minute. Yet landing one of these will always put a smile on someone's face, and I think that's a big part of it. Not everything has to be esports. This is the franchise that has the best stages, so lean heavily into that. And all the oddness that comes with it. I'm not saying don't do esports, because you're gonna do esports. That's just how modern fighting games work. But I'm saying don't pull back what makes the game fun to begin with, because a lot of this absurdity is the heart and soul of Dead or Alive. Like starting a stage on a bridge. There's very little freedom of movement. It's not very 3D, right? And someone's going to go over the edge and take a heck of a lot of damage. And will certain characters have advantages over the other ones? Maybe, definitely Hayabusa. But like, it's fun, it's cool, lean into it. Like everything in Dead or Alive 6, specifically, the most modern game, is very square. Like a lot more non-standard stages that have different exit points. Like Africa and Dead or Alive 2, where depending on where you get dumped out on, there's different flora and fauna, right? And they can act as walls and triggers and bounces and all that kind of stuff. I always thought stages like Dead or Alive 5, Scramble, right? I thought Scramble was a fantastic stage. It does start a little dull, like it's just kind of a boxy arena to begin with. And this is one of the aspects where like the cinematic presentation of Dead or Alive has always been fantastic, right? Because you can just smash people in the environment and then, oh, stuff starts like smashing around everywhere, going crazy. And then you create like an actual incline that has verticality to the stage you can create all new combos with. Like, is this fair? No. Like, this is bad from an esports perspective, but was this stuff cool? Yeah, it was great, right? It gave great visuals. You could feel the impact of your blows actually mattering in the stage, actually changing up. And then there's cliffhangers, right? Like, oh, we got you over the edge. And then depending on what we input, we have like ledge specific moves and like this stuff was amazing. This is the kind of stuff, if you want to sell a Dead or Alive 7 to a potential new customer that's never played, this is what you show them, because they care more about cool moments than frame data, right? And don't get me wrong, you know, I'm Mr. Tutorial guy, Mr. Guy guy. I love my frame data. I love teaching and learning all that stuff myself. But once again, lean into what makes DOA DOA, and that is absolutely part of it. The stage with the train in Dead or Alive 5, right? Same deal. Keep the cinematic presentation big. People appreciate that kind of stuff. Because when things go crazy, they go crazy all the way. That creates memorable moments. People appreciate this wild and wacky stuff happening in the middle of a stage. Because, yo, the first time someone sees that, they're going to be like, wow, this game's cool. I want to tell my friends. And there's just stuff like, hey, I'm Ionic. I'm going to football kick your head into the wall, right? Because why not? Like, I'm going to somersault you into the wall. Like, all this cool stuff with stages, like, even if those are just basic wall throws, right? Like I said earlier in the video, keep Dead or Alive, Dead or Alive. The stages are one of the biggest parts of Dead or Alive. And the most recent entry in 6 let things get a little dull, and that's a crime. Everyone deserves to elbow someone to an RPG for the first time, right? Or, you know, if, well, DOA being DOA is a bit silly, right? How about like a clothesline from hell into a helicopter? Why not, right? Bring back the crazy. The crazy is what builds memories. The crazy is what sells copies. Again, maybe it's not the best for like esports grand finals big stage, but it'll have a tournament presence no matter what you do anyways. So don't curtail the rest of the game just to appease that end of it, is what I'm trying to say. Now, let's move on to characters. So, I guess the only roster we know for sure is Hayabusa and Kasumi, which makes sense. They're basically the main characters. Although, I'll argue, between Kasumi and Ayane, it's like a Kyo Iori thing. Kasumi's technically the main character, but I think Ayane is more popular. One, I like Ayane more, so done, settled. But also, Ayane is in a million different games. Like consistently in Ninja Gaiden, she's got like Fatal Frame spin-offs, Kagero's Deception. Kasumi gets out every now and then. I think she was like in the recent Ninja Gaiden 2 Black. and in one of the versions of Warriors Orochi, but nothing like Ayane. Ayane, when they want a dead or alive character in other games, Ayane's the go-to. So what I'm trying to say is Ayane is probably a safe bet she'll be in the game. Now, looking at the roster of Dead or Alive 6, I expect most of the cast to return, because in 3D Fighters, and I expect it to be the case here, they're just going to reuse a lot of the animations, right? Because that's how you have to realistically do it. Some, like Lei Fang's animations are really, really old. I hope she gets updated in some way, shape, or form. But, you know, most of the anime, like, whatever, right? So most of the cast will return. Some people probably won't, like Diego. Diego, don't come back. I made a video a long time ago of, like, the most disappointing characters of fighting game history. Diego was in that video, because what are we even doing? Diego, what you do here, one of your new characters is just Diego, just as a sexy lady. You try again, but we're not coming back to him. But what do? Like, we definitely keep the core, so like Ayane, Kasumi, Zack, Tina, Helena, like the people that are main characters for like Dead or Alive 1 and 2. Some characters will be DLC, although I hope they don't do it the exact same way they did it in 6, where like, oh, hey, Rachel, who you are now used to as a character in 5, is DLC again, right? And she's basically the same character, so it's not like a big deal she's back. It's not like a big change. Not like Akuma is such a different character in Street Fighter 6 compared to Street Fighter 5, right? Well, core cast returns. Nico probably not returning as well, but like the usual suspects. But you need a new character. You need a few new characters even, and you probably need some guest characters. So let's talk about that. Now, when it comes to a new Dead or Alive, we'll get some new characters. Will one of them probably be some kind of sexy lady? Yeah, probably. That's a safe bet, I think, when it comes to Dead or Alive. For any new characters, though, I think a big question is, like, we got to give them new fighting styles. Now, certainly DOA is a lot more fantastical than, say, like a virtual fighter. So you don't necessarily have to rely on real-world martial arts, because people can just have all sorts of crazy powers in DOA, and it's not a big deal, right? But that said, you know, there's still some notable exceptions. Like, say, boxing. There's no boxer. Like, Zack kickboxes, I guess. Mila has like an MMA flavor, but she's not a boxer. And, you know, there's a lot you could do with just a pure boxer that DOA has never touched. And one, admittedly, yeah, you're on this channel, so it's going to come up. Sumo wrestling, right? There is no sumo. Technically, Nyo Tengu has a couple sumo moves, but there is no sumo. And this is something where you could do something a little different, right? DOA, while it has plenty of attractive ladies, it's always had the issue of not going too far out of their realm of comfort on this, right? You could definitely do a more attractive lady that's not in the traditional mold, like say even a bigger lady that did sumo. Or say like Diego, we mentioned just replacing Diego because he's boring as hell, right? Give it to like a bigger jacked lady, right? Because he's like a very brutal street fighting style. So how about some archetypes, the body types we don't normally see in Dead or Alive? Because, you know, in the men, we got a bunch, right? We have, you know, skinny, pretty boys. We got big burly dudes like Bass and Leon, all that. For ladies, like a little bit of variety would be fun, I suppose. And you can definitely do that while expressing new martial arts. Just don't do the Venus Vacation characters. The other Dead or Alive, the dating sim now, it's not even volleyball anymore, it's like a dating sim, right? Has a bunch of ladies that aren't in the games. Like Tamaki made it into her way into DOA 6, and I think she's dull. Like straight up, I do not like her. We already got plenty of doll-like women. We don't need another out of this group. Just do something a bit more unique than one of them that you can just like import the model or something. Because again, hey, how about some Ninja Gaiden? Ninja Gaiden 4 came out, did pretty well by everything I've heard about it anyways. And obviously we have Ayane as part of it. She has an all new look as well. She looks more mature, definitely like a time skip or something. So they don't say how much time goes by, but she's definitely not 18 anymore. And we'll talk about more about that in a second, actually. But like, there's a lot of depths to be plumbed from the Ninja Gaiden universe. We got Yakumo, who is our new star of Ninja Gaiden 4, right? And he can certainly play different than Hayate and Hayabusa as well, because there ain't no shortage of ninjas in Dead or Alive, and yet they somehow keep figuring out new movesets. And we got more than just Ninja Gaiden 4 recently. We have Ninja Gaiden Ragebound, and we have Kumori, who's from the Black Spider Clan, who's the baddies in the Ninja Gaiden universe. And she fights in a way that's not Kasumi or Ayane, so you could just add another lady ninja to the game, I suppose. So there's lots of room for new characters to pull from existing universes rather than just creating from whole cloth. Or maybe you want to pull from more Koei Tecmo properties and make them in-house guest characters. Why not? Then hopefully you can avoid the Kula Mai situation where you may lose the rights later on, which is truly unfortunate. But yeah, hey, new characters, new martial arts, we gotta do it. Probably more than a few pretty ladies, sure. There'll definitely be something in the way of guest characters. I know everybody wants Tifa, and I think that's perfectly fair enough. And to be real, if it's for a 3D fighter, I think she's a better fit for Dead or Alive than she ever was for Tekken. Like, you have her do somersaults with dolphins in Dead or Alive, nobody blinks an eye. Be very easy to give her a lot of alternate outfits as well, right? But is she realistic to get? My understanding is Square Enix very precious about their properties, and then this is like their biggest property, right? So who knows? Whoever gets Tifa in the end has to be doing like pretty well for themselves, right? Like, this is not a cheap get. The lady from Stellar Blade honestly would be a great fit. She's very on brand for Dead or Alive with about, just high flying action and a very skin tight suit. Only thing is, DOA's never really had weapon users. Certainly not to say you can't do it, but it just has to work with all the internal hold animations, like all the counterattack animations, right? Countering kicks and punches. It would look really weird with a sword, so might have to give her like a hand-to-hand martial art. But otherwise, very on brand. I also think it would be very poetic to get someone from Virtua Fighter. It's been done before, and the integration of the Virtua Fighter characters in Dead or Alive 5 is some of the best ever. Like, Dead or Alive makes no bones about its Virtua Fighter inspirations, unlike Tekken. If you can play VF, you can learn DOA real quick. If you know DOA, you can learn VF real quick. They are very related mechanically. So those characters translated over perfectly. And let's do it again. We don't know the Virtua Fighter 6 roster. I'm assuming Sarah would be back. Although we don't know because we have Stella, who's not the same. But get someone pretty, put them in DOA, it'll work. And then I would love the reverse as well. Get one of the DOA characters in Virtua Fighter. The only caveat being Virtua Fighter is a lot more realistic. So like the teleports of like Hayabusa and Kasumi don't really play the same. But if you did someone like Ayane, who doesn't use magic in her fighting anyways, she's someone that like has a moveset the roster of VF doesn't really have, so that would be cool. And this is just more of a pet peeve of mine, but I would just like to see it happen. Because someone's got to be brave enough to do it one day. Because like if we look at every lady here, it's like 22, 21, 19, 18. Like the oldest I think is Christy at 26. It's just a thing in 3D fighters I find are the most guilty, where like women are not allowed to age. We got older guys here. Bayman's 33, Bass is 48, and you'll never see that in a lady in a fighting game. Like in Tekken, Nina goes into cryo sleep in between each tournament, despite the fact there's like 30 years that went by between Tekken 1 and 8. In Soul Calibur, like 22 years went by between 4 and 5, I believe. And Ivy's the exact same age because of the curse of the Soul Calibur. So how about put in a middle-aged lady? You can do it in a very Dead or Alive way. Like Scarlet in Final Fantasy VII Remake is in her 40s. Is she repulsive to the eyes? I don't think so. Just for variety's sake, I'm just saying give us a lady in a fighting game who's older than 30. And they're actually brave enough to write that number down on the screen. Because you could argue Chun-Li's finally over 30 now in Street Fighter 6, but they won't write it down, so who knows. I'm just saying there's untapped markets here. There's more than one way to do a pretty lady that can get the people on Twitter horned up. Just spitballing, but just someone at some point, please, do it. Why can men be every shape, size, and age, yet women can't in fighting games? I never got that. But yeah, when it comes to new characters in Dead or Alive 7, it's inevitable. We'll get new people. I just hope the styles are interesting. If we do get new ninjas, please don't just do a lot of the shared Mugen Tenshin stuff that a lot of the existing characters already have. And obviously, there's room for newer characters because, like, yeah, Dead or Alive 6, Diego and Nico definitely swing and a miss. But Dead or Alive 5, Marie Rose and Honoka, like, those are, like, the most popular characters overall now, I think. And Marie Rose, too, a different kind of body type than's usually in DOA and was very successful. So I'm saying, change things up. You might get something that's another hit. And lastly, this is the most personal plea, but Leon base roster, please. I know I always pick the least popular characters in like every fighting game, and this is my curse. Leon, you roll the dice and you're still, if you're lucky, if you even get him in the game, right? And I don't want to have to wait 5 years for Dead or Alive 7 Ultimate or Last Round to finally get my boy in the game. He's just a cool middle-aged dude who throws people around and hits you like an MFer. Like, there's a lot to love there. Now, to briefly talk on the online, like, hey, the basics, yes, rollback netcode, yes, crossplay. For, like, last round, DOA 6 last round, I know we're not getting crossplay, and so maybe if we get rollback. For 7, though, that's not negotiable. For a re-release of an old game, sure, we'll see, I don't know. But for this all-new premier title and the new numbered game in the franchise, you don't get to mess around on that stuff. I shouldn't even have to say it, yet I have to say it. So here it is. Now, besides that, like, legitimately steal everything you can from Street Fighter 6 and how they do online. Because, like, the old journey of, like, you take your account, you get to S plus or whatever, and then you're done, right? That worked for back in the day. And like I said, don't esports the game too much, but like that stuff's smart. That you want to steal. Like, do proper rankings. Do ranking by character. If I only play Bass and then I want to play like Hayabusa, I don't know how to play Hayabusa. I don't want to risk my S plus ranking over that character, right? So ranking by character is the way to go. Ease of use of replays and downloading other people's replays. DOA's never been big on online, although it did invent the lobby system that is the standard everyone knows about these days back in Dead or Alive 4. So on that, I suppose it was ahead of its time. But other than that, like, you gotta steal what's modern. Don't just do what's always been done and call it a day. And as for single player, just like kind of do what a lot of modern stuff is. Like, make sure you have Ghost, AI Ghost, to download people's Ghost replays, all that kind of stuff. More fun single player modes would be good. Like, I spent a lot of time, I remember, on DOA 4 survival with the whole item collection thing and the point stuff and like the non-ending just slew of enemies. I found that actually pretty fun. Like, I got a couple hours to kill, sure, why not? And obviously it was not a focus in DOA 6, but a proper campaign would be nice again. DOA 5 told an actual story. It's a DOA story. It's a nonsense story. But like, we had a tournament. We had a clear winner of the tournament. We had the whole ninja side plot. And DOA 6's story was a mess. Like, ideally, the end goal is you get people playing, you know, online and ranked or casual matches or whatever. But single player has to be part of the equation. You can't just leave it, right? And DOA 6, I felt, very much left it by the wayside, so don't neglect it. It's an important part of any fighting game release. So in closing, there's a lot of small things I could say. Like, I wish the ground game was a little bit more like, say, Dead or Alive 5 than Dead or Alive 6. I kind of like Shake Stun, and I don't like how they removed that in Dead or Alive 6, although you'll definitely find varying opinions on that, because some people were glad that the ability to shake out a stun was removed, right? Which, as I'm talking now, makes me realize I'm a little bit of a hypocrite, because for Virtua Fighter 6, I want Stagger Escape dead and gone, and yet I'm saying I want Shake Stun back for DOA 7. So I don't even know what to make of myself. Man is a complex beast that way. But there'll be some small tweaks and all that, like, who knows, there'll be a new mechanic, because you gotta sell a new game on new mechanic. That's how it always works. There'll be new stuff to play around with. I'm very open to just taking, like, a lot of the mechanical stuff as it comes. We'll see. But yeah, so a lot of what I've said here is like kind of the heart and soul rather than like the bits and bobs. And that's where I'm hoping it succeeds the most, especially stages more than anything else. Stages have to be good. Stages in DOA 6 were kind of dull by series standards. By other game standards, sure. Like the car stage alone is crazier than anything in Tekken. But by DOA standards, But most of all, yo, just make it good. Don't mess it up. DOA 6 was a swing and a miss. And if you get 2 of those in a row, like say Soul Calibur 5 and 6, that means the franchise is going to go on ice for like 10 years more than likely. And I don't want to wait that long for another good DOA. So make this one good out of the gate, please. But that said, that's just a lot of my thoughts on the matter. And I know you got some too on what you want to see out of the new Dead or Alive game. And by all means, please post those in the comments below. And otherwise, well, that is it for me. So thank you very much for watching. Hope this video has found you well, and go out and play some Dead or Alive.